Welcome back, everyone, and we've gone through quite a bit of theoretical information, and even though it was theoretical and more information about specific areas and useful tips within cybersec, I really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it helps to get you start thinking of the cybersecurity principles, how to approach specific areas, subjects, to also reinforce and encourage more learning. So as we progress here, we're going to get a little more hands-on building up to our capture the flag. And for this, I wanted to start by introducing the inspector. So for those of you who are already familiar with it, please feel free to jump to the next lecture, but let's explore what the inspector is. It's such an awesome tool, so you can launch either Chrome or Firefox. For this, we're going to be using Chrome as an example. Once you have it up, you should see something similar to the following. So here we have Chrome. And we can right click and go to inspect. You can do the same thing in Firefox as well. Again, we're just going to be using Chrome to test. Once you bring up inspect, essentially we're using the inspector. And this is so useful for debugging, for viewing information. As a hint, it might be useful in the CTF later, possibly. It will definitely be familiar in other CTFs if you go on and participate in them as well. But it can be very helpful in the CTF later just for obtaining information and looking at some of the sources. So for example, I'm going to minimize this so we can see it a little better, but I want you to be able to view some of the code. And if you go to the following, you can go to elements within the page. So for example, this is a div. If we select the div, we can actually find it here in the code in the right pane. And it's a very helpful way of just obtaining other information. Imagine you had an error on the page, you can find it in the console if it's going to display an error. If you want to define more information about that div, such as the div class, and this can be really relatable to web scraping as well, those classes and this information within the HTML and CSS and this type of code and structure in web scraping is definitely very helpful. So this is an option to find information. So you want to check the about link. You can find the about link. You can see the class. It's an A class with the class here, the class name that we can see. And that's not important. We're not looking for any information on this right now. It's just to help you become familiar with the inspector. You can also, as I mentioned, view the console. You can take a look at sources with the inspector, network, performance as well. We can check performance. You can see memory. I'll bring this up a little more too. We can scroll over and you can also see application, security, and Lighthouse. Lighthouse will help generate reports about that if you want to address any specific problems, say on your site. But we can go back to our elements. That's just the main focus right now to see the doc. This is an HTML doc. All web pages will have an HTML doc. The structure is going to differ. We can think of it as, in a sense, a tree to work down the branches of the tree within the HTML doc. You can see the head, the body, and then the closing HTML tag. Usually with HTML, it's going to follow similar design protocols. You will have this HTML doc included. One more time to reinforce it, it's not important right now. It's to help you get familiar with this inspector tool. So feel free, if you have your own website, to play around with the inspector to find information. You'll be able to use it with the CTF that we're going to do as well to help obtain some information. And it's just a really useful tool within the cybersec domain. And one more quick thing I wanted to mention. We are more focused on the code and being able to inspect elements here, at least for the purpose of being helpful for the CTF, but this can be used as well, but just to discover information within the document, within the HTML structure. But if we bring up this option, we can see the application, security, and Lighthouse. We can go to security, and it's pretty useful because you can check the certificate of the page. So this is HTTPS, so the certificate is valid and trusted, which is something that you always want to see. And you can take a look at other related information for security. It's just a quick option. There's so many other tools that we can explore and discuss and pay attention to, but this is just a really quick little tip. If you're looking to check the certificate or security for a page, you can always find this option here. You can also go to Lighthouse, since we mentioned it before. Lighthouse will help fix, as it says, common problems that may affect your site. So really quickly, just wanted to touch on that. But for us right now, the main takeaway is just exploring the elements, the document structure of a website that you can use to check, and it may, again, be helpful when we get to the CTF to examine the site structure to help you discover information. So just wanted to add that. Hope you guys are interested and find this useful to use the inspector. We're going to close this lecture up, and I will see you in the next one.